Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back. Beloved, it is indeed your brother Big VJ checking in. The title to today's podcast is Pre-Adamites versus Adamites. Another way of looking at Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, right? That's going to be today's conversation. And this story, this creation story, can be found in the Jewish biblical text. And we're going to read out of the version that have been put together for us from the British government, right? We're going to take a look at the King James Version, you dig? And, beloved, let me say this, right? We've been going over the creation story that was brought to us by Mr. Muhammad, and we took a look at another creation story that was brought to us by an elder named Malachi Z. York, about how the first God, the first being that came into existence, came out of triple darkness, right? Eventually, beloved, one day I'm going to have a conversation on the Navajo creation story, right? We all know the Navajos are a Native American tribe, Red Chief brothers that come from here, just like us, the Hells of North America, and the territory that we call the United Snakes, right? They have a story in which really we can make an argument that it sounds a lot like what Malachi Z. York said. It sounds a lot like what Mr. Muhammad said, because everything begins in this state of darkness, right? In fact, the Navajo, they go so far as saying how everything begins in this still state of deep darkness, and then you go to like different levels of darkness before you come into the awareness realm of earth. It's like heavy, thick darkness, black darkness first, and then you go into like a level of blue darkness, and then you go into a level of yellow darkness, and this is where you meet the holy at, and then from there you come into the glittering world, which is earth. It's called the glittering world because, of course, it's illuminated by the sun in the daytime, and then at night got the stars and the moon and blah blah blah. It's a whole little thing, right? But one day we might just kick it and talk about that. It's easy for us when we start talking about creation concepts and religious concepts to talk about the Abrahamic religions, because this is the religions that Negroes hold so tightly to. It's a deep love and admiration for the Jew. It's a deep love and an admiration for the Arab. On this platform, we say it in this wise, beloved. Well, there's a pecking order, and all Abrahamic religions are not created equal. And then this pecking order, the Jew was at the top, because the Jew don't need nobody. So we always take a look at the concept that this tribe from the east put together. We talking about the Israelite tribe. They got their own prophets. We talking about the Jews. They got their own book. They got their own sacrifices. They got their own rituals. They got their own everything. You dig? The Christians have to kind of like follow them, because Christians don't have their own prophets and none of that. They got some disciples and apostles, but the book that they subscribe to is the scriptures, which is a script that was written by Jews. And then the Arab, he's like the Johnny come lately of the bunch. He has to follow the Christian and he got to follow the Jew. But the Jew don't have to follow nobody. He sits on this hill by himself, and everybody else kind of like go along with what he says. You dig? So it was two creation stories that was put on the table. The problem is, many of our people just been sitting in these church houses in the West and sitting in these pews our whole life, and allowing Reverend Rip Dinner and Pastor Pochop and company read a book for us. And we never just took the time and read the book ourselves. And now we get caught up in one of the biggest okie dokes in history, because we don't understand that this book, we talk about the Jewish biblical text that went to Europe, and King James and his 47 partners, they did what they did, and now we got a British version. And again, we're not taught that this is in signs, symbols, and allegories, and racial allegories. We're not taught that. We kind of reading it like it's a book of history. But if it's a history book, you don't need no specialized bishop and pastor to teach you history if it's just history. No, it's coded. Hence, signs, symbols, allegories, and a racial allegory. In Genesis 1 and 2, we kind of been sold this neat packaging, right? Oh, it's the exact same event. It's just told two different ways. See, it's just the author repeating himself for dramatic effect, I guess. I don't know. But we're going to talk about Genesis 1 and 2 in a different kind of way you may have heard of it before. And we're going to speak on it in the context of Genesis 1 is talking about Pre-Adamites. That's the original man and woman. That's the black seed. That's the brown seed. That's the red seed. That's the yellow seed. And how we were all made male and females simultaneously. Male and female at the same time, not two different times, the same time. And then you see in mythology, these pre-Adamites were told to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the planet Earth, right? Being fruitful is seeding the earth. Multiply is doing business in the earth. And then, of course, replenishing is the relationship between the man and the woman. You dig? So before the Adamites even got here, the pre-Adamites were already here, building communities, building families, building infrastructure, right? Multiplying, doing great things in the earth. And then a new man came along. That's how we're going to talk about this concept today. It's just a concept. It's just another way of looking at what is already written from a different POV. That's why there's terms that's used called the esoteric, which is the left-hand path, and the occult, which is like way down on the left-hand path. Now, we don't go that far, because the occult is kind of like, it's getting into more, it's the hidden meaning mixed in with symbolism, and then it goes so far where it flips when you get to that deep left end. We did an occult conversation, like, I want to say maybe like a week ago. And what that does is it takes a villain in a story and it shows you the opposite lens and say, okay, now the villain in the occultist view is really the hero, and then the hero is really the villain. Because we talked about, we had a conversation about Cain and Abel. It's a mentality. Cain is the one that go off on his own joint. He go off on his own. He make his own path. He do his own thing. He's not following the system. The system is more like a Abel kind of like deal. Abel just kind of like go along with the system. Yet, you and I in our day-to-day lives, sometimes we may choose to be Abel, depending on the situation. We go along with the system. And then sometimes we choose to be Cain. We buck the system. We don't go along with it. And the system says, listen, if you don't go along with us, this is the path you end up in, and you're not going to like it. And sometimes we see or we hear stories of men that were connected to the system. Then you get a Master P who he could have did it like Abel. He didn't. He did it like Cain. You get a Jay-Z. Well, he could have did it like Abel. He didn't. He did it like Cain. You get a Floyd Money Mayweather, where the whole boxing world was ran by a Jew for the most part. We're talking about top rank Bob Arum. Could have just played alone. No, he got with some brothers. So now we're gonna do it a different way. He took the Cain route. He bought himself out his own contract. Then he forged his own path. Could have been like Yo Gotti, who's a Memphis rap. He's a Memphis artist, pardon me, who he was underneath a good system, a system called Cash Money. Cash Money Records. Good system. Yo Gotti said, you know what? Let me buy myself out of this contract. I'm going to cane my way. I'm going to go outside of this system and see what I can do for myself. That's the occult view of things. You dig? All right. So let's talk about Genesis 1 and 2, right? When you take the glasses off and you just take a look at the raw text, the game changes completely. In my estimate, beloved, Genesis 1 and 2, it's not a remix of the same track. They are two completely different albums. They were written by two different producers, talking about two entirely different groups of beings. Okay. To my knowledge, beloved, the textbook answer is, well, the reason why they're different is because Genesis 1 was written by the priest, and Genesis 2 was written by the Yahwehists from a Yahwehist point of view. And you'll see that throughout other biblical stories. The story of Noah come to mind, where you get the generic priestly scribe first, where you see the Noah story is generic. Noah is required to take two animals of each kind, each gender, and just go on the ship. Then you read the Yahwehist version and you see, no, Yahweh told Noah to take 7 of each kind of animal that's clean, and then 2 of the unclean, male and female, because we understand that, I don't know, we taking a guess that Yahweh liked the sacrifices, so you had to get more animals. But ultimately, what King James and company did, they just merged these two stories together and let's let you figure it out. But if somebody's reading the book for you, you'll never figure it out. You never get it. Like Genesis 1 and 2 is different, and then you see like a merger down in Genesis 5 where the writers are going along with the Adamite line. This is the line that they want you to focus on because it's their line. It's the Jew book. It's not your book. It's the Jew book. It's the Jews' creation story. A lot of cultures have their own creation story, and we're going to talk about them here. The Yoruba got their own creation story. The Navajo, like we said before, got their own creation story. The Nation of Islam got their own creation story. The Arabs, through Islam, got their own creation story. We just follow along what everybody else's story is because we don't have a story of our own, right? In Genesis 1, the chapter is about the original, the cosmic masters of the planet, the Pre-Adamites. The original man and woman is talking about you. The other chapter is talking about a controlled experiment, a genetic grafting process from the poor part of the planet Earth, i.e. the dust. A specialized project. It's the Adamites. Adam was not I hear pork chop say that, like, well, when Adam fell, the devil took over the world because Adam was this and that and the third. Adam was a common sort. They act like you can't go to the Strong Concordance and read it yourself. Adam was, as he's described in the Strong's Concordance, he was a ruddy man. Ruddy means red. Red means what? The blood showed through your face. We call that a pale man. We call that so-called white man. Let's take a look at Genesis 1 real quick. We're going to go over the cosmic masters. We're going to talk about the Pre-Adamites. And beloved, this is a concept, again, that is written by Jews, being that they come from a line of Adam that's only 6,000 years old. They can't tell you about the people that came along before them. So it's all generic. It's just it's the writers just writing. You understand? And they're writing the gain of these people, the activity of these people, we talk about the Pre-Adamites, based on what they were not able to have themselves. I hope that makes sense. So look, we open up Genesis 1, chapter 1, and right out the gate, we're dealing with a grand cosmic scale. The word that is used for creator here in the original Hebrew is Elohim. Now, we talking, we gonna kick it, but I'm gonna just put this on the table as well. Sometimes you may hear me saying on this platform, like, yeah, this is written in Hebrew. This word means thus, thus, and so. And this word in Hebrew, it means thus, thus, and so. Right? To be kind of like, to put it out there, you got to put it out there. The way that the story is written is that Abram is coming from Iraq. His whole bloodline, his family, his kindred is coming from Iraq. That's what we call this territory today. And Jew terms, or the term that come out of Britain, is the land of Ur. This is in Mesopotamia. You dig? And he has his own family, his own kindred. We're talking Abram, and they have their own language. And then he crosses over the Euphrates, the Euphrates River, and then he comes down to south to the Levant area, and that's what you call the land of Canaan. And he took on their language. So he's speaking a Canaanite language now. We're talking Abram. Nobody knows his language from the Deep East, with them Iranians and Iraqis and where his folks is from. He's talking the black man and black woman language, the land of Canaan. You dig? Eventually the story goes on where the Israelites begin to go to war with the Canaanite tribes, and they are subduing these black folks to slavery, etc., and to death, most importantly. And they're taking their language as they are doing it. So now the language that is left is the Hebrew language. But the Hebrew language, when you look at linguistics, it's not really Hebrew. It's old Canaanite language. So that's important when you start looking at the term Elohim, because the Elohim is already connected. This word is already connected to a Canaanite pantheon already. It's a story behind the word and the God. The powerful ones, that's what Elohim mean. It's a story already behind it. It's plural. Now, anybody who has done the knowledge knows that Elohim is a plural word. It means the gods, plural, or the powerful ones, plural, or the divine ones, plural. It's the big chief guy, El Elyon, and he has a wife named Asherah, and him and Asherah have 70 children. And in this concept based by the Canaanites, I didn't see his name on the list, but Yahweh wasn't a part of the original 70. So these writers are writing him in, and they're going to eventually, they're writing Yahweh into a pantheon, and eventually they're going to push everybody off the pantheon and leave Yahweh at the top of the mountain. Maybe that's a different story for a different day. I'm saying all that to say that term Elohim is a plural word, and some of the verbs that associated with it is singular. So it's almost like saying like the bosses. You understand? the bosses. In the beginning, the bosses created the heaven and the earth. The bosses did it. Now, if we use the term the bosses in English, it insinuates that everybody that was doing the real moving and shaking was just higher than you. They can tell you what to do. But even in the bosses category, there's generally one boss above the rest of the bosses. This is the boss of all bosses. You dig? It's almost like, if you're an athlete, you play for the Detroit Pistons, right? And you say, yeah, I was in a meeting with the bosses. Oh, the bosses decide to sell the franchise. Well, the bosses is going to consist of the GM, the team president, the vice president, the owner, him or herself. All of these is bosses, but generally there's one big boss over all the bosses. That term Elohim is kind of like that. It's a plural joint. We aren't talking about a singular guy sitting on a cloud. We're talking about like a highly advanced collective, a supreme force of melanated builders. Why are we going to call them melanated builders? Because now we're going to connect a little of this to what was taught by Mr. Muhammad, what was taught by Malachi York, what was taught by a little bit of the Navajo Indians, that the original powerful God Almighty comes out of darkness. And the being that come out of darkness creates other beings like himself. And then these beings make Genesis 1 beings. These are melanated builders who put the universe together with a precision of mathematics. So let's just take our time, right? In Genesis 1, creation happens strictly through sound and vibration. That's it. Elohim speaks and things manifest. In Islam, I think the term is kun fa kun, like be then it is. This being is so powerful, this being can just say it, sound and vibration, and it can come into existence. So now we're looking at an evolutionary step-by-step process that spans cosmic days, which we know are epochs of time, right? Not like a 24-hour shift kind of deal. Then, okay, we're reading the story. Then we see the climax is on day 6. And then the text says, and Elohim said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. So Elohim, so the gods, so the pantheon, so the divine ones, so the powerful ones created man in his own image, and in the image of Elohim created he him, male and female created he them. Now, based on this concept, the Elohim is male and female. They are gods and they are goddesses, and they are making earthly beings after their likeness and their image. So the females are going to look like the female goddesses, and the males are going to look like the male gods. Now, this is something that always stuck out to me. When the pantheon, when the Elohim, when the powerful ones said, let us make man in our image, none of the beings was confused about what a man was. Nobody was confused. Just like if I come to you and say, let's make Shushu in our image. Now I got to sit for 30 minutes to an hour to explain to you what a Shushu is. But if I put a being on the table that we are all familiar with, he's like, oh, okay, we're going to make a man in our image, which ultimately means that nobody knows the real image of a man. because the real image of a man wasn't made in the man's image. The man was made in the God's image. Does that make sense? If I come to you, beloved, and I say, let us make a pit bull in our image. You understand what I'm saying? What are we really saying when we say that? We saying nobody knows what the real pit bull look like no more. Because we took the pit bull and we just made the pit bull in our image. In other words, saying the pit bull had its own characteristics, its own behavior pattern, its own. We just made a pit bull in our image this time around. That's what the Elohim did. That's what the Pantheon did. That's what the powerful ones did. They made a man, which we don't know what a man looked like, because they made a man in their image. Does that make any sense? This is all Genesis 1 now. This the Jew book. Notice the details. Let us. This is a collective. Let us make man. Let us make them in our image. Plural. And when they made man, they made the male and the female at the same time. Now I want to stop and I'm just going to say this just in conversation, because we just kicking it. We just talking about pre-Adamites and Adamites. A lot of our people never heard this concept before. We talking about it today. You ever notice how the black woman act? We going to keep it a whole beam. You ever notice how the black woman act? You ever seen the brown woman? You ever see how the brown woman act? And the red woman act? That black woman, beloved, that red and brown woman, they talk just as strong as you. Just look at the mentality of the black woman. In America, it's a good example. She has a different kind of demeanor. She's not like an Adamite woman. You see that when you look at Adamite women, they're very like docile. They're very like, holding their hat in hand, humble, or, they're just different. Like, you can kind of like boss them around a little bit. You can see, like, I'm just talking, like we just talking, we kicking it. You dig? When you kind of see the white woman and the white man, they have a relationship. Like, you could tell that white boy was here first. He kind of got a whole different bossy demeanor. Then the white woman come later. Like, she kind of looks up to him a different kind of way. The energy, the vibe is all different. When you look at the original man and woman, the black seed, that woman don't look at you like that. That woman look at you like you ain't been here no longer than she been here. And she knows it. You can see how they act. They don't act like original women don't act like Adamite women. Now, I go so far to even say this, because we just talking about a Jew concept today. And we going over Genesis 1 and we going over Genesis 2. But there's another concept, beloved, that teaches that the woman was here first. Anyway, when it comes to the original man and woman, the black woman was created first. And then the black man came after that. That's a whole different concept, different day. But we're going to talk about that. But I will put this on the table. When archaeologists are digging, you understand? And they're in Africa and they're in South America. When they find mama and them bones is always old. Or older, I should say, than daddy now. Different story for different day. The Jew concept in Genesis 1, that original man and woman was made at the very same time. Not two different times. Same time. And they were made in families. They were made in tribes. They were made in groups the exact same time all over the planet. All over the planet. And the planet at that time was one landmass. And water was surround. They call it Pangea. This is what the devil called it. But it was just one landmass, and it was all separated between tribes and villages and family. And these people were made all at the same time, with the black seed coming first. Right? I'm mixing in what we read in Genesis 1 with the concepts that we teach in the village. See, the woolly hair is the incarnate God. This is based on the concept that the black man is God. Because when the Elohim created, brought forth man in their image, that's called incarnation. That's incarnation. You taking your one self and you're duplicating it in an earthly form that can move in this realm, the same as you. So we're taught that the original man come in 4 seeds, and each seed has 4 shades. So the black seed has 4 different shades of black. The brown seed has 4 different shades of brown. The red seed has 4 different shades of red. The yellow seed has 4 different shades of yellow. You dig? With the incarnate ones coming with the wavy and woolly hair first. And then the hair becomes recessive, and then it becomes straight. The oldest bloodline is the woolly and the wavy hair. That's like the Negro hair. Like the hair you got. Your hair, the incarnate gods, your hair on top of your head doesn't match the hair on your eyebrows. It's 2 different kinds of hair. The rest of the strand, when it becomes recessive, because it's a grafting process where these shades are being broken down to ultimately make an Adamite. The original stage of hair is the coarse, kinky, wavy. That's the crown first. We'll talk about on a later date where if you look at a king's crown that the rest of you see the Adamites wear in history, they got like a crown, and you kind of peep it, kind of spiky all around. But you have the natural born crown on top of your head. To imitate you, Adamites had to create a crown to make it like on top, to like imitate. Different story for different day. Right? We still gonna take our time, but that'll kind of stretch things out longer if we keep doing that. The original man and the original woman were manifested together, side by side, equal in power and status. That was the point I was trying to make. Now, what was their mission? The pantheon, the powerful ones, the divine ones, the Elohim, told them to replenish the earth and subdue it. You can't replenish something, beloved, unless it was already replenished before. These beings, your ancestors, the Pre-Adamites, were given dominion over the whole planet. That's why when the mischief maker began to do his expeditions and he was exploring, he got the lands. We was already there. He didn't take us nowhere. We was already there when he came there. We was already there. We were, again, beloved, already there. So our ancestors were given dominion over the whole planet. We wasn't locked in no garden. Did you hear me? We didn't come out of no garden nowhere. We come from mothers. You know, it's a term in the village. We say we come from the bloodline of the gods. We didn't come out. Ain't nobody take no dust, no poor part of the planet Earth and make us up and that's just not. We talking concept. No, that's just not. It just didn't work like that in this particular concept. Right? The entire globe was the Pre-Adamites' domain. These are the originals, the ancient. These are the supreme beings, right? We talking the black man when we use that term, supreme being, God. But God is the black man, and the black man is God, the highest vibration of mind. We building pyramids. We charting the stars. We living in harmony with nature for hundreds of thousands of years before the name Adam or the Adamites ever crossed anybody's lips. Now let's talk about Genesis 2. Beloved, let's talk about the so-called white man. Let's talk about the pale man. Let's talk about the ruddy man, right? When you look at Genesis 2, the vibe completely shifts. Suddenly, we zoom all the way in from the vast cosmos to a specific place now. I heard some ham bones, right, that was talking about the creation story, and the way that they put it, they say, this is the Orthodox concept. They say, well, look, it was in God's mind in Genesis 1, and then he walks it out in Genesis 2. It sounds good when somebody try to explain that to you that way, but you can read it yourself and it's like, no, it's not like that. There's days that things are made in Genesis 1. There ain't no days in Genesis 2. The sequence of how things was made is everything is different. It's not universal no more. It's one little specific place in a garden somewhere, and the man was made and he was brought to the garden. We're talking about Adam. He was made from one place, and then he was brought and he had a job. Man, just dress it up. He didn't have no cosmic. Nobody tapped him and said, hey, be fruitful and multiply and blah, blah. He was a common sort. He was like a servant. He just had a specific task. That was his deal. He was being made, though. He was being made and being prepped along the way to be a certain type of man to produce, we talking Adam, to produce a certain kind of people, to be a certain kind of way around the original man and the original woman, right? If you kind of do the best that you can and start doing some traces, it'll kind of take you around the east somewhere. It was some localized patch of dirt called Eden. Now, the name of the creator shifts. Genesis 1, you see just the Elohim. And it's not like that in Genesis 2. It's a specific Elohim in Genesis 2, right? So we ain't dealing with the cosmic collective of the Elohim no more. Now, the text introduces Yahweh Elohim. And this translates with British King James, the company with the 47 white boys, they come out with a term called the Lord God, right? When you see Lord God, that's what the Jew is calling Yahweh Elohim. This is a completely different entity. You see this entity operating with completely different methodology too. Because in Genesis 1, like, all right, you see the earth is full of water and vegetation. And then you look at Genesis 2 and it says, well, there was no plant in the field. And it didn't even rain yet. So there was not a man to till the ground. Now, hold on, wait a minute. Because we already went over this story, right? Didn't Elohim just make the whole planet full of men and women in Genesis 1? Yeah. Now you get to Genesis 2. Again, I mean, we talking Yahweh. Yahweh wasn't looking for the cosmic masters. Yahweh was looking for a worker, a tiller, a farmer, somebody that's going to work the ground, a agricultural servant, kind of like. This is a common sort. He looking for the ruddy man, the pale man. So he made Adam. So how does Yahweh create this specific being is the question we're going to put on the table now. Well, the book says, and the Lord God, that's Yahweh Elohim, formed man of the dust of the ground, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul. Now, let's stop. Because the first gods in Genesis 1, sound and vibration, that's how they made everything. Spoken into existence. This ain't nobody speaking Genesis 2 now. Ain't nobody speaking unto existence no more. This hands on. This is a laboratory process now, beloved. We talking concept. Yahweh forms this being out of the dust, which represents like this, right? The dust is what we call, beloved, the poor part of the planet Earth. And the poor part of the planet Earth is like, it's like base material. It's like dust. Like, man, you know, just dust, like some bottom shelf DNA, some bottom shelf genetics. Like, it's just like dust. Man, it's a poor part of the planet. You don't get the best of and make nothing out. You take it out of it's just the dust. You dig what I'm saying? That's how the man was made. Then he breathed into him, and he got Adam. Now, we often say, like, you know, there's some characteristics that Yahweh has as an Elohim, and it's written throughout. You can read through the Jewish Old Testament, and you can see he's like a war being. He's a jealous being. You know, he's I gotta say this again because we gotta re-emphasize this. He's a man of war, is what they call him. Now, Professor, you know, Professor and Dr. Amos Wilson taught us, beloved, that war is a fancy name for thieving and robbing. That's all war is. When you see a people war with somebody, next thing you know, it's the spoils of war. The women are being took, the animals, the livestock is took, the jury's being took. It's a theft in process. So this being, he was we talking Yahweh still. He was a god of war, and he had a people. If I'm not mistaken, in one of them verses, it says something like Israel is Yahweh's battle axe to the nations or something. This is the people he used to tear down other nations. And beloved, we bear witness that that's right and exact. It kind of works that way. So the Jew is saying there's energy behind him, in her, as a nation of Israelites that's welding them to just do these other things to other nations. Let's go back to the story, right? Because that's how we describe the poor part of the planet Earth, the dust. But when he made Adam, Adam was alone. So Yahweh builds a specialized enclosed environment, which is called the Garden of Eden, and he puts Adam in it. Now, Adam isn't told to rule the whole earth. That ain't in the text. He is put in a controlled atmosphere. And in this atmosphere that he is in, he is told to dress it up and keep it. So he's a groundskeeper like. Then later on, Yahweh realized his worker was lonely. So he puts Adam in a deep sleep. It's a trance kind of deal. When you look at the quote unquote Hebrew word, which is really a Canaanite word. But when you look at, it's like Adam, he's in the trance and he goes into his side. He pulls out a rib. Now, in this Hebrew quote unquote language, there is no word for rib. How many times we say that on this platform? It doesn't exist. So the rib is like a fancy word in concept now of genetic material. He finna do some more DNA splicing, right? He clones or he crafts a woman, and this is Eve. Now, beloved, again, if we compare Genesis 1 and 2, this is totally different. Because, again, Genesis 1, the man and woman was made at the same time, simultaneously. But again, Reverend Rip Didder will come to you and say, well, look, he was thinking process, brother. See, he was thinking over here, then he began to make over here. And it's just concept. No, everybody don't subscribe to that concept because the days and everything it's not mathing up, it's not adding up. It's just not. So to that we also say this. Eve, beloved, don't have no mother. Right? Adam, beloved, don't have no mother. See, the Genesis 1 man, the male and female was made after the likeness of the Elohim. These are plural, the pantheon. the divine ones, the powerful ones, and this is the God and goddesses. So look, when you look at the black man and woman, right, you see there's a term and a concept called royalty, and this royalty bring about a king and a queen. You see the black man is the king, and you see the black woman is a queen, and that's based on this Genesis 1 concept, because you're coming from the gods and the goddesses. So on planet Earth, you take the position as the black man and woman in royalty as a king and a queen. If your line starts with a man and there is no woman, he got to put somebody, do some genetic splicing, and then you make a woman out of you. You don't know how to be no mother. You don't know how to be no queen. You don't come from that line. You just like a laboratory kind of like made being. So you don't have royalty in your line. You can imitate the original man and woman for royalty, but you don't have that in your line. So you start to see that we talking concept. Adam and Eve started to produce and have children based on the process they call incest, which is illegal based on the laws of the original man and original woman. That is illegal. That is forbidden. That's nasty. That's just something. Now, I want you to think on this though. When you look at some of these powerful Adamite families, these Rothschilds, these Bilderbergs, these whoever, these Queen Elizabeths and all of these, when you start kind of peeling back the layers of how they run their royalty, it's like it's some incest stuff going on with them. It's always like that with these Adamite people. They're warring people. It's very, very interesting how they do things. You know what I mean? Because they're imitating the original. They just a copy of the original. We talking concept now. Just look at them. Now, being that you don't have no mother, Adam, being that you don't have no mother, Eve, they don't have that warm kind of like vibe, that warm feeling that you get from a mother's love and a mother's touch. They ain't got it. See, you can see it early on. You can read between the lines, beloved. They're being prepped to be a different kind of like people. They're warring people. Look, they got traditions in Florida, beloved. I got to stop and just pivot and say this, right? We kicking it. Look, they got stories coming out of Florida that these devils used to take the babies of original men and women and feed them to the gators for gator bait, and they put it on the postcards and stamps in Florida. If you look, you would see like this. You would see they have like, it's a baby, right? It's a small child, original child, and then you would see next on the side of the postcard, it's a gator. You would see. And it's Florida history. Regular people can't do that. People that's motherless, they can do that. And I know a lot of our people, they think they're Adamites. So whatever the Adamites do, they chasing these people down. They want to be just like them. They want to have a savior. They want to go to Jew heaven, Arab heaven, and all that. But just look at the people now. They telling you who they are. Just listen to their own story they're giving you. They're bearing witness who they are. We just watching, we listening. Oh, okay. How they were able to think about it on this wise. Our foremothers used to breastfeed these mischief maker children. They can turn right back around and hang you. You ain't safe around them. Man, my heart goes out to these young black teens that they going hanging out with these mischief makers, and they on vacation spot, and they pop up missing all the time. Something always happen to them. And now we understand that the current condition of our people is deaf, dumb, and blind. So it's not safe being with a lot of our people. So you think you can be around the majority culture, it's safer. It's not safer, because that man nature is way different than your people's nature. Your freedom fighters are championing because they spent their lives fighting against them, just trying to do what's normal on the planet Earth. You gotta fight to get everything that you should be born with. They were doing their best to keep light coming from in your mind. They want to keep you on the plantation. They're not regular people. I don't want to just keep going over that. I'm just saying. In their own history as Adamites, they're telling you and I, they don't have no mother, beloved. They don't come from a mother's line. They don't come from a royal line. You know, they don't come from a lineage of kings and queens. They say it in their own text. Their maker, Yahweh, they was judges and all this, and they looking at the other nations. The other nations are cold. They try to make the whole world like everybody come from somebody named Adam. It doesn't. No, we not all 6,000 years old. No. So what they do is they take original people and they put labels on original people. Okay, you come from Ham, and you come from it, but it is no Ham. We don't come from no Ham. This is just some stuff that this is their concept. They're throwing it on people now to make it seem like we all got to the planet at the same time. We all came from Noah, and we come from the mountains because Noah always hit everything they got in their line come out of a mountain. Moses get these commandments, he got to go to a mountain. Ezekiel see these visions, is he up in a mountain somewhere? You know, Elijah he going against prophets of Baal or whatever, he's in a mountain. It's always the son of Mary, he get one of his most famous sermons. It's the Sermon on the Mount. It's like they love these. It's like some mountain people, like you looking up to them. It's like this is them though. They got their whole story. They hiding. It's literature. It's writings about them. Adam and Eve kicked out the garden. Well, where did they go, beloved? It skips all that. But they got other writings about Adam and Eve, the treasures of the cave. These folks went to the caves when they left the garden. Maybe that all that. We just rapping, but that's a different story for a different day. Cave-like people. You look up to them and you love them. You slobbing at the mouth. You want to be just like them. But look, we go back to Genesis 1 and 2. We can spot the differences. Beloved, we got the receipts. If anybody tell you these chapters are the same story, all you gotta do is hit them with the receipts. Ain't that what the young folks say? Man, them contradictions, beloved, are too loud to ignore unless you understand that, well, it's just two different events here. Because this ain't no contradiction, this is just two different events. You see God as a collective. It's a pantheon, it's the powerful ones, Genesis 1. It's localized with Yahweh. You see Genesis 1. The cosmic, sun, moon, and stars, the earth, the heavens, it's just spoken. Sound and vibration makes everything. Yahweh, Genesis 2, is formed from dirt, genetic grafting. It's different. Genesis 1, it's the order about how nature come about. The plants and the animals, it's very, very specific. Plants and animals created before man. It's very specific. No, it's not like that in Genesis 2. The man come first. You make the pale man first, and then after that, the plants and the animals come along. So now here's the concept on that. They'll say, well, V, if that happened, beloved, like you saying in your concept, you know, because you say Genesis 1, the plants and the animals were created before man, and then the Adam came, and he's a new man, where it must be new plants and new animals being made. Yes, that's part of the concept that we talk and teach on this platform. See, this is something that a lot miss, and we didn't miss it. It's the dietary law, Genesis 1 and 2. See, the original man and woman, the Pre-Adamites, see, they was given every seed-bearing plant for meat, meaning they was vegan. Is that right? All right. Which also means, beloved, that if the plants and animals was created before the original man and woman, that means that the original animals that was on the planet ate like a vegan as well. Plant-based diet. That means it just was cows. It just was giraffes. You dig? It just was it just was deers, you know. It was animals that had a similar nature, almost like you. And then when the Adamite came, see, the Adamite is a different kind of being. He's a predator-like being, which means that it was some animals that came that was a lot like Adam. They was predator animals. That means that we're older than the lion. The lion didn't come with us. The tigers didn't come with us. These leopards, these crocodiles, these snakes and all of that, they come along with the Yahweh and the Adam bunch. These are tricky beings. What did the book say? The book say it was a serpent. The serpent was more subtle than any beast in the field. More is a mathematics word. More mean where this being just got more of a trickster nature than the rest of them. But if we still just talk a concept, but we just, we kicking it too. Like, don't you notice, beloved, that a predator being has to be more crafty, more sneaky? They're killers. How many of us ever watched National Geographic, right? Shout out to them. And we watching the lions, and we watching the tigers and all that, and the cheetahs. And the first thing they do before they feed, they crouch all down, and they get all below the grass, and they do all this tricksters kind of like stuff to get them come with the Adamites. They all come together. Those beings ain't ancient beings either. Look. I'm gonna say this at the timestamp. When Adam and his wife, the two motherless beings running around in the garden, right? They had when they was in violation of law, because see, going back to the dietary law, see, the original man and woman, see, every mean all. That means, as far as you can see, every seed-bearing plant and all that, vegan, we can eat it. Not Adam. Adam was restricted. He couldn't eat from a particular tree. You dig? He eats it anyway. Okay, boom. Do get those out of the garden, right? Okay. Now, his maker tells him, Yahweh tells him, well, now, since you did this, you listen to your wife and everything, and he's finna put you out. He says, you're gonna have to eat bread by the sweat of your brow, telling him that you're gonna have to work for what you eat from now on. But it's, again, we got to go back to the term he used. He said you're gonna eat bread, B-R-E-A-D, by the sweat of your brow. Now, the question you should be asking yourself, and even though we just talk a concept, but the question that you should be asking yourself is, well, how does the first man eat bread? When we know that bread is a collection of grains and all this, and you have to put it in the oven to make it. We can go back and date when the first oven was here. In other words, the oven was already here when Adam got here. Adam don't predate the oven. The oven was already here when the man got here. Bread was already in existence when Adam got here. Does that make sense to anybody? You look up the Hebrew or the Canaanite word for bread, it's bread. It's that will come out of an oven. So you're going to eat bread by the sweat of your brow. Well, how can you eat bread if bread doesn't exist yet? Bread, you know how long it took? Bread doesn't exist. Oh, it does exist. When you're a 6,000-year-old man, it's already here. They got ovens go back 35,000 years. Yeah, the bread, folks was making bread good and plenty by the time that pale man got here. So before we close out, we're going to do this real quick. We're going to talk about the originals, and we're going to talk about that which is grafted. Because this is what we say in the village. The original man and that which is grafted. The skunk of the planet Earth. When you put these pieces together, beloved, the history becomes crystal clear. The Pre-Adamites of Genesis 1 represent the original nation, the black man and woman. Then the brown seed, then the red, then the yellow seed. The Asiatics, beloved, which is a fancy term, Asia means the earth, the black man and woman is the first out of the earth, meaning we are the world citizens. The Asiatic black man and woman. Today they say the indigenous man and woman. That's us. That's the melanated supreme beings who inhabited the planet, possessing the true divine DNA of the universe. We the incarnate gods, made after the original gods and goddesses. So we have a history of operating in high science, operating in mathematics. So taking that which is invisible from the mind and making it physical, that is the real definition of spirituality. Not nobody playing some music, you jumping all up and down, you falling on the floor. That's just you doing some bodily exercising. Spirituality is taking that from your mind and you're willing it into the physical realm. That's spirituality. The original man and woman, beloved, our ancestors was naturally in tune with the cosmos because they were made in the true image of the original creators. See, the Adamites of Genesis 2, that's a later project, beloved. That's a grafted species. Look at them. When you study deeper esoteric history, you start to understand the timeline of how the modern world was shaped. So the history of Genesis 2 is like the story of a specialized being. The pale man, the ruddy man, he wasn't, they were common sorts. They was engineered for a specific time and a specific purpose. See, this is why on this platform we talked about the history of the scientist named Yaku. That's how he come into the picture. Now, we still talking concept. You understand? This is still on that allegory plane. It's a way that you teach people that don't have currently the deep information of how genetics work. You are teaching them in a way about the crafting process through an allegory. That's Yaku. Taking the original material, you separating it, breeding out the dominant traits, and then you're making a new crafted being. It's a new laboratory being. Oftentimes in this physical plane on planet Earth, you don't see white as a manifestation of a being outside of a laboratory. So when you see the white rabbit, that's not the original rabbit. The white rabbit was grafted by, it was grafted out of the black, the brown, and the gray rabbit. And then from that gray rabbit, you keep grafting that seed and you get a white rabbit. You see that white mouse. The devils always use the white mouse to create medicines for themselves. They don't use the brown and the black mice. You don't even think you see any black and brown mice anymore. No, they graft out. This is laboratory now. You keep grafting out, then they get that gray mouse. They're getting close when they see that gray mouse. They keep grafting the gray mouse. They got a white mouse. And then they use the white mouse for medicine and how it take vaccines and they use that on themselves. But when we see the white mouse now, we understand that's not the original mouse. That mouse was made in a laboratory, just like the white rabbit, just like the white horse. The white horse just don't pop up like that. No, that's grafted out. You see, does this make sense to anybody? When you see white, it's not the original anymore. It just doesn't. These beings, these animals come out of, right? That polar bear is not the original bear. Nobody thinks the polar bear is the original bear. That polar bear comes out the black and brown bear, beloved. And does this make sense? Right. All right. So Yaku's story is just an allegory, just to teach a people that have not been themselves, that really don't know self and kind right now, about, well, this man was a grafted man. So we come with a story about, okay, well, this would happen on the island of Patmos and blah, blah, blah. But it's just teaching something. No, we're just saying, in other words, that man is not an original man. He's not like you. He came through a grafting process. He's the opposite of you. That which is no longer original, we are taught, is what? It's devil. It's an adversary now. He was took from original material, though. And he was created through grafting. That's the Genesis 2 man. It kind of like reads like a fairy tale. And more like a historical record of like genetic modification. If somebody teach you properly, you don't just see it like it's less like a story tale. Genesis 2 reads less like a story tale. You dig? So, we look at Adam, beloved. We see Adam every day. And Adam was the father of a new grafted lineage based on concept. He had to be placed in a controlled environment. He was in Eden because he was new to the planet. He didn't have the millions of years or the hundreds of thousands of years of ancestral memory like the Pre-Adamites did, like the original man did. He don't have that. So he had to be taught how to act. He had to be taught how to eat. He had to be taught how to survive. And all of this teaching is in a book that is written that the public don't have. Is the story about the Adam and Eve. The man is in the cave. Them folks is in the cave. They always got a cave. So Sodom and Gomorrah is two cities. They acting wicked. It's getting tore down. First thing Lot run to is a cave, him and his daughter. As soon as that Adamite get in that cave, he banged both of his daughters out. And you know what the Adamites say about Lot? He's righteous. Now, he got drunk and he did this. Now, we've been drinking. Many of us, right? We drank. But we ain't got that drunk where you knocking up both your daughters, you confused about nobody's that confused, because we understand how the body of a male work and how erections work, and if you out of it, you don't even know. But it's just some cave story about how he went up there and he created two nations by banging both of his daughters out. This is Adamite behavior. It's Adamite conversation. Yahweh gave him a good law. Yahweh put them Adamites in the middle, based on this story now. Yahweh got him in the middle of that desert, giving him a good law, trying to raise them up. And part of the sexuality law was he had to teach them not to sleep with the beast. These 400 years, these folks been living 400 years, according to their story. 400 years, they in Kemet. It wasn't enough. After they left Kemet, around high civilization, high culture, he had to get them in the middle of the desert and teach them, listen, he had to bring them law. Make them promise they'd keep the law. Moses brokered a funny deal for him. It came with some blessings and curses that came with the law. And in that, though, he had to teach them about no more incest, no more bestiality. Had to teach them about, man, don't sleep with your woman when she on her cycle and all this. They had to be taught this kind of stuff. They don't have the hundreds of thousands of years of a genetic line teaching. So they give you stories about how they went in captivity just to give them an excuse of how they need to be taught how to act. They didn't know. So we made a conversation about this, I don't know how many moons ago. We was comparing the Kemetic priests to the priests of the Israelite. And it is a very big difference from the Kemetic priest saying, I have not, than the Israelite priest saying, thou shalt not. Look at them. All they priests is Moses and them murderers, and look at them. They ran out of Kemet in their own story. They start stealing and thieving out, and they went and took, to say, the land of milk and honey and all that. They wouldn't took a land. They didn't go build no land. They had the real God on their side and everything. Still stole the whole land. Oh, with the people, they vilify your name first before they take you down. They still do that to this very day, beloved. These are Adamites. He don't have that ancestral memory. He don't got it. The pre-Adamites got it. So as the story goes, right? Because we're going to wrap this thing up. The Adamites couldn't even follow one rule. They were given in the laboratory. Hey, look, y'all don't eat from the tree. Their eyes were open to their what? Nakedness. See, it shows you how they was made. See, they lack supreme knowledge and power from jump. Look, they coming from their own maker. Look how the Genesis 1 man is. They coming out and all they got to be told is, hey, look, y'all be fruitful and multiply and replenish. Hey, look, ain't got to get them a bunch of do's and don'ts, and because you know why? They coming out of the line of the gods and goddess. And now you see royalty. You go back, our people, kings and queens and all this old kind of talk. Not them. The more they go back in their hit, look at the Adamites. The more they go back in history, they get closer and closer to that cave. They get savage. They get barbaric. It's just their history now. It's just their history now. It's just, beloved, their history. They ate from the tree, eyes open. All right? Yahweh had to put them out. Forced them to go into a world that was already populated by pre-Adamites. See, that writer ain't gonna write it that way. See, the Jew don't write it that way. He gonna make it like the whole world empty. This whole world ain't never been empty. But you know, they got to give it to you by faith. And faith is what? Faith is the foundation of falsehood. Even though we just talking concept, like, man, that faith stuff, that's how they get you wrapped up. See, this game is to be sold, beloved, not told. So they gonna tie you paying for falsehood. But once you come out from amongst certain teachers and you start reading for yourself, you can see the separation between Genesis 1 and 2. It don't take no genius to see that. Once you see it, you would never unsee it. Now you stop looking at the Bible as just some old book of spooky stories, and you start recognizing, it starts sounding like an ancient log book, if you ask me. It sounds like a log book of history. It sounds like a log book of genetics. It sounds like a log book of civilization. But who's the Jew giving you his line? The Jew telling you about Adam. The Jew can't tell you much about pre-Adamites, but they're doing their best. The pre-Adamites are the root of the tree. The Adamites are the grafted branch, right? Both in the book. But they don't share the same origin. They don't share the same creator. And beloved, when you see that, you'll see you and that man, y'all don't got the same destiny. See, the Elohim, beloved, the pantheon, powerful ones, the divine ones, gave the originals the world. The originals was give us. The originals was given the whole world. Yahweh gave his creation a garden, a little territory, and he lost that. So, beloved, in closing, all I'm going to say is you got to know your own lineage. You got to know your own history. And you got to recognize, beloved, what chapter you actually stem from. And, beloved, we're going to leave it there. Peace and black power to you, family. Yes. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Beloved, this is indeed Real Black Content Form Podcast. Hey, man, it's your brother V. Beloved, I'm going to get it with you guys later. Peace, peace, beloved, and more peace.
Beloved, make sure you pick up a copy of the new ebook entitled Truth and Faith is Not the Same Thing by author Victorious Justice on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com for $1.99. That's right, this ebook filled with powerful information is only $1.99. Ebook Truth and Faith is Not the Same Thing is a provocative and deeply analytical book that dismantles the comforting myth of harmony between objective reality and spiritual conviction. It posits a stark, uncompromising thesis. Truth and faith are fundamentally adversarial, not complementary. I'm gonna say that one more time. Truth and faith is not the same thing. In fact, truth and faith are adversarial to each other and not complementary. You want to know more? Go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com and for $1.99, get your ebook of Truth and Faith is Not the Same Thing by Detroit author Victorious Justice. And beloved, you won't be disappointed. So order your ebook copy or paperback copy today.
Thanks for listening. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Google, Anchor, Spotify, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment on the podcast. Your opinion of what you just heard is important to the platform. So yes, beloved, your comments are the engine and fuel to the machine. Stay blessed and have a powerful day.